There are saints who leave behind books, others leave behind philosophies, and then there are rare figures who leave behind almost nothing at all. Neem Karoli Baba was one of them. He did not write, he did not lecture, he did not try to explain the universe. Yet decades after his death, people across India and the West still speak of him as a presence, something quietly transformative, felt deeply and never fully understood. Searching for a clear biography leads mostly to silence. There is no verified birth record, no personal archive, no detailed, reliable timeline. This absence was intentional. He showed no interest in preserving his own story or legacy. What we know comes from memories, villagers, monks, householders, people who met him briefly and later realized those short encounters stayed with them for the rest of their lives. Most accounts agree he was born around the year 1900 in northern India. His given name is believed to be Lakshman Narayan Sharma. He came from a modest Brahmin family. As a child, he was quiet and inward, not dramatic, not mystical. Like many young men of his time, he was married early, and shortly after the marriage, he left home. There was no announcement, no explanation, no farewell. He simply walked away. For years, he wandered across northern India as a sadhu, owning nothing and belonging nowhere. He did not seek followers. He did not claim authority or status of any kind. One incident appears repeatedly in independent accounts. While traveling on a train without a ticket, he was asked to step off calmly. After he did, the train reportedly would not move. No mechanical issue was found. Eventually, the holy man was asked to board again. The train started immediately. He made nothing of it and walked away quietly. He stepped off near a small village called Neem Karoli and stayed there. That is how the name came into use, not by declaration, but by convenience. When asked who he was, he gave simple answers. I am nobody. I am a servant. He avoided attention, fed whoever arrived, and showed no interest in being remembered at all. By the early 1960s, India had begun to attract a new kind of traveler. They were not tourists. They were seekers. Many came from Europe and North America, disillusioned with material success and questioning authority, tradition, and identity. Some had explored psychology. Some had explored psychedelics. They were searching for experience, not belief. And unknowingly, they were about to encounter a man who offered no explanations at all. Among these seekers was a Harvard psychologist named Richard Alpert. He had achieved academic success, public recognition, and professional security. Yet something felt unresolved. After losing his university position and traveling through India, he heard repeated mentions of a quiet saint in the north. Not a philosopher, not a teacher, just someone people described as unusually loving, unpredictable, and deeply present. When Richard Alpert first met Neem Karoli Baba, Richard was still known by his birth name. The name Ramdas would come later. Neem Karoli Baba did not offer instruction. He did not ask questions. He did not introduce himself. Instead, he spoke casually, referencing personal details from Alpert's life that had never been shared, moments from his past, private experiences, inner struggles. The effect was not fear, it was recognition. Ramdas later described the encounter as disarming rather than dramatic. There was no sense of being judged or evaluated, only a feeling of being seen completely. Neem Karoli Baba did not claim insight. He did not explain how he knew these things. When asked directly, he brushed it aside. Don't worry, he said. Everything is fine. For someone trained in analysis, this simplicity was unsettling. What affected Western visitors most was not talk of enlightenment or liberation. It was behavior. Neem Karoli Baba fed people constantly. He teased, he scolded, he laughed. He showed affection without formality. When asked spiritual questions, he redirected attention toward service. Love everyone, he said. Serve everyone. There was no method to master, only a way to live. Many Westerners arrived expecting a guru who would validate their experiences. Instead, they encountered someone who quietly dissolved the importance of identity itself. Neem Karoli Baba discouraged dependency. He encouraged ordinary life, family, work, service. Ramdas would later say that he did not meet a teacher who gave answers. He met a being who embodied love without condition. That meeting would ripple outward, changing countless lives. Stories of miracles surround Neem Karoli Baba, but they were never presented as evidence or spectacle. There were accounts of sudden healings, unexpected knowledge, and appearances at unlikely moments. Yet he never encouraged belief in these stories. When praised, he redirected attention away from himself. When questioned, he dismissed the event. For him, miracles were irrelevant. Only love and service mattered. Many devotees later said that extraordinary events seemed to happen around him, not because he intended them. He never announced predictions. He never demonstrated powers and request. If something unusual occurred, he often laughed it off or scolded the person for paying attention to it. "Why are you looking here?" he would say. "Look to God." This refusal to claim authority set him apart from most spiritual figures. Western visitors found this especially confusing. Many had come seeking confirmation of mystical experiences. Instead, they were discouraged from focusing on them. Neem Karoli Baba warned that fascination with powers strengthened the ego. Love weakened it. He pushed people back into ordinary life, relationships, responsibility, service, rather than away from it. There was no encouragement to escape the world, only to meet it honestly. One of his most consistent teachings was simplicity. He advised repeating God's name, serving others, feeding whoever arrived. When asked complex metaphysical questions, he often changed the subject or remained silent. Silence, he seemed to suggest, carried more truth than explanation. This frustrated intellectual seekers, but over time, many realized that the frustration itself was part of the lesson. Devotees like Krishna Das later described Neem Karoli Baba as someone who removed spiritual ambition entirely. There was no ladder to climb, no status to achieve. Love was not an idea to understand, it was an action to live. If someone served without recognition, he approved. If someone sought importance, he corrected them, often with humor. In this way, Neem Karoli Baba left no system behind, only an example. He refused to be a miracle worker, a philosopher, or a savior. He remained a servant. And that refusal may be the reason his influence endured. Because without doctrine, people had nothing to memorize. Without hierarchy, nothing to defend. Only a question remained: how would they live once love was no longer theoretical? In the early 1970s, Neem Karoli Baba showed signs of physical decline. He did not speak about illness. He did not prepare followers for a farewell. As always, he discouraged concern. "Don't worry," he told people. "Everything is fine." There was no sense of a final teaching approaching. Only the same presence, the same humor, the same emphasis on love and service. In September 1973, while in Vrindavan, Neem Karoli Baba left his body. News spread quietly. Many devotees were not present. Some learned days later. The simplicity of his passing reflected the simplicity of his life. He left no instructions about succession, memorials, or preservation of his image. After his death, something unexpected happened. Instead of fading, his influence expanded. Ashrams associated with him continued to function. Devotees continued to serve. Stories continued to circulate. People who had met him briefly found that the encounter grew more meaningful with time, not less. His absence did not feel like an ending. For many, it felt like a quiet continuation. What endured was not a philosophy, but a way of relating to life. Serve without recognition. Feed whoever arrives. Remember God in ordinary moments. There was no requirement to believe extraordinary stories, only a suggestion to live with honesty and compassion. Because he left no doctrine behind, people were forced to rely on conscience rather than instruction. For Western devotees, his impact quietly shaped modern spirituality, not through mysticism, but through grounded kindness, not through withdrawal, but through engagement with life. He demonstrated that spiritual depth did not require robes, rituals, or renunciation. It required attention and care. Many realized they had not met a teacher of ideas, but a mirror for their own capacity to love. Neem Karoli Baba never tried to change the world. He never tried to build a movement. He never tried to be remembered. And yet, decades later, people still return to a question his life quietly asked. Can love be lived without explanation? Can service be offered without identity? He left no answers behind, only an example. And perhaps that is why his presence continues, without instruction, without insistence, and without end.